Hey there tech fans, Rick here again from the O-Ray team with an introduction to the new TOVI Professional AV over IP system. This flexible and expandable solution was engineered to make it incredibly easy for you to share media content from one location with a second remote location up to 100 meters away over a single LAN connection. And you can share that same media content with multiple remote locations at the same time by simply adding additional receivers to your network. The solution provides full support for video resolutions up to 4K at 60 frames per second, and it's both HDMI 2.0B as well as HDCP 2.2 compliant, which means it's plug-and-play compatible with a wide range of modern media equipment. And the solution provides a host of additional features, including KVM functionality, which allows you to plug a keyboard and mouse in at the remote location to remotely control the computer at the primary location. The transmitter modules feature local loopback functionality, which allows you to continue to enjoy the media content at the primary location while you're simultaneously sharing it with all of your remote locations. The kit includes a set of infrared blasters, which provide complete remote control of the content from that secondary location, and the entire solution provides audio extraction capabilities where it can digitally separate the audio component from the media that's being displayed, and that allows you to pass that along through an analog or digital connection to a soundbar, home stereo, or other amplifier system for that full theater experience. And finally, the entire solution utilizes the very latest in power over Ethernet technology, which means if you have a PoE capable switch, this will distribute power to all the modules and eliminate the need for a power supply at each of the locations and greatly simplify your wiring. Now, as part of this overview, I'd like to start with a basic understanding of the components involved in the system, and then I'll actually take a closer look at each of these modules and explain the connections and indicators. I'll list the features and functions that this particular system provides, and then I'll come back one more time and remind you of some of the special features that this new TOVI system provides. Now, the units I have in front of me are part of the X4 system. O-Ray offers 3 different system models, X1, X2, and X4. And they all have different features and support different resolutions, but I have the X4 in front of me. And it has 4 basic components: a PoE switch, a transmitter module, a receiver module, and a control hub. Now, the PoE switch is for connecting all the equipment together. It's essentially the backbone network that allows you to distribute your content. Now, if you already have a PoE switch, you can use that one, but O-Ray offers a PoE switch that's compatible with the TOVI system. The transmitter module connects to whatever media device you'd like to share the content from. Could be a DVD player, a game console, could be a TV receiver, but this is responsible for converting the HDMI signal into a signal that can be sent across the network, and the receiver module receives that signal and converts that network signal back into an HDMI signal for display on a monitor. So these two work hand in hand. The control module is the brains of the operation. It connects to the network and provides complete digital control over the relationship between the transmitter and receiver modules, and this is where you can decide which input is being sent to which output. And you can access this by connecting a computer to your network and opening a web browser and pointing it at the graphical user interface inside this module based on its IP address. Now, the nice part about this system is that it provides a tremendous amount of flexibility, and you can sort of mimic other products that are dedicated products. For example, you can create an HDMI extension relationship between these two modules where the same media content is sent to a single location, or you can create an HDMI splitter relationship where that same media content is sent to multiple remote locations at the same time. You can even create a multiplexer relationship where you can add additional transmitters with different media streams and then decide which of those media streams is being sent to which of your receivers. And then finally, you can also create a video wall relationship where that same media content is sent to a single location and displayed across a collection of monitors to create that gigantic video wall. And all that flexibility happens dynamically and is controlled by the hub. A very simple system to operate, but allows a lot of flexibility and expansion. Now, if you stay tuned next, I'll take a closer look at all the modules and explain the connections and indicators. I'll list the features and functions, and then I'll come back one more time and again point out some of the special features that this TOVI system provides. Now, I'll start with the transmitter module first. This connects to whatever media device you'd like to share the content from with your network, and it's responsible for converting the HDMI signal into a signal that can be sent across the network. On the top of the cabinet, you'll find ventilation slots, as well as along both sides and on the bottom.
And those are designed to let any heat that develops during operation escape to keep the electronics inside at a very comfortable temperature. On the sides, you'll also find mounting holes that can be used with a bracketing kit to mount the module up off the ground and out of the way. On the bottom are 4 rubber feet that will help to protect the surface you set this down on and keep it from sliding around during operation. On the front of the unit, starting on the left, is a reset button. You can use a paper clip and gently press that reset button to reset the module if needed. To the right of that is a power indicator. Now you have 2 choices for power. If you don't have a PoE switch, you can use the power supply that's included with the transmitter module and plug it in the rear. But if you have a PoE capable switch, when you make a LAN connection, that will provide power to the module. But either way, once you apply power, the unit starts an internal power on self-test where it checks the electronics, and once it passes that test, it'll light that LED, letting you know it's ready to use. To the right of that is a link indicator. When you make a connection to your network, this starts searching for a companion receiver, and if it finds it, the link light will come on solid, indicating a connection between this transmitter and a receiver somewhere in your network. To the right of that is a 3-digit display that lets you know what channel the transmitter is currently operating on, and you can change that by tapping these 2 buttons, or you can change it digitally using the hub. But if you want to set up a relationship between this transmitter and a receiver somewhere in your network, make sure you're on the same channel as that receiver. And to the right of that are 3 USB connections. This particular transmitter provides KVM functionality, which allows you to connect the keyboard and mouse up at the receiver that's connected to the transmitter over the network and control the computer that's connected here. And you can use that port to connect the local computer. These 2 USB-A ports that are both USB 2.0 certified can be used for connecting external peripherals like a microphone or a camera to your computer. On the rear of the unit, starting on the left, you'll find a power port. And again, if you're using a switch that's PoE capable, you won't need the power supply. To the right of that is a LAN port. You'll use that to connect this transmitter to your network. To the right of that is a fiber channel port. You can also make a direct connection between this transmitter and a receiver using a fiber channel cable. To the right of that are 2 full-sized HDMI ports labeled in and out. The in port connects to whatever media device you'd like to share the content from with your network, and the out port connects to a local monitor. This unit provides local loopback functionality, which allows you to continue to enjoy the content here while you're simultaneously sharing it with the network. And if you'd like to take advantage of that, you can connect the monitor to this port to enjoy that content. Always use a high-quality cable for those connections. To the right of that are 3 audio connections, an SPDIF optical, an analog out, and an analog in. This product provides audio extraction capabilities where it can digitally separate the audio component from the media being displayed and allows you to pass that along to an amplifier or a soundbar using these connections. To the right of that are a group of RS-232 connections. This unit can transfer those signals between locations. To the right of that are connections for relays and digital I/O, and you can make connections there if you want to use those features, and those are fully explained in the manual. And finally, to the right of that are 2 3.5mm ports that are used with the infrared blasters. Now with the transmitter, you'll find the infrared blaster that plugs into the infrared out port. You won't need to use the infrared in port. The receiver module looks very similar to the transmitter module, but it has a completely different function. This connects to a monitor at that remote location that you'd like to use to enjoy the content that's being sent over the network. And it's responsible for converting that network signal back into an HDMI signal for displaying that monitor. Now on the top of the cabinet, you'll find ventilation slots just like on the transmitter, as well as along the sides and on the bottom. And those are designed again to keep the electronics inside comfortable. You'll find mounting holes on both sides, just like on the transmitter, that you can use to mount the receiver up off the ground and out of the way, and 4 rubber feet on the bottom that help to protect the surface you set it down on. Now on the front of the unit, on the left, you'll find the same reset button. You can use a paper clip and gently push that to reset the module if needed. Another power indicator. Once this passes power on self-test, that'll indicate it's ready to use. And to the right of that is a link indicator. Now, when you connect this to your network, it's going to search for a transmitter on the same channel. And when it connects to that transmitter, that link light will come on, indicating a solid connection, and it should start displaying content on the monitor. And you can change that channel again by tapping these buttons to match the transmitter channel it's on. You can also use the hub to change that channel. To the right of that are 4 full-sized USB-A ports. 2 of them are USB 1.1 and 2 are USB 2.0. These 2 can be used for connecting a keyboard and mouse to this receiver for controlling a computer at the transmitter end. And these 2 can be used for connecting external peripherals like a microphone or a camera that can be seen by that computer. On the rear of the unit, starting on the left, you'll find a power port. Again, if you're using a PoE switch, you won't need the power supply connected. To the right of that is a LAN port you can use to connect this receiver to your network. And to the right of that is another fiber port that can be used for a direct connection to a transmitter using a fiber optic cable if you'd rather not use the network. To the right of that is a full-sized HDMI port labeled output. This connects to a local monitor, again, you'd like to use to enjoy that content. Use a high-quality cable to get the best resolution. To the right of that are more audio connections. This provides audio extraction capabilities just like the transmitter. You've got an optical SPDIF, an analog out and an analog in, and you can use these to connect to a soundbar or home stereo. To the right of that, another bank of RS-232 connections, relay and digital I/O connections, and 2 more infrared blaster ports. Now, on the receiver, you'll connect the infrared blaster to the infrared in port, and it'll pick up the signals from that remote location and send those back to the primary location over that LAN connection so you can control the content you're watching. The network hub is a really important component in the system because it acts as a digital control module that establishes the relationships between the transmitter modules and the receiver modules for distribution of your content. So for example, you can send the same media content to a single monitor or all the monitors in the system at the same time. And if you have multiple transmitter modules, the hub will allow you to decide which of the media streams is sent to each one of those monitors. It can also help you set up a video wall at one of the locations where you can display a single media stream across the collection of monitors, creating that gigantic video wall. It also can change the channel that the transmitters and receivers are broadcasting on and do other things in that network. Now, the way you access the hub is by connecting any computer on the network to the hub through a web browser by simply pointing that web browser at the IP address of the hub, and that will open a graphical user interface that provides complete control over the network through this hub. Now, the hub itself is a pretty simple design. You'll find ventilation slots on both sides and on the bottom, which again will let any heat that develops during operation escape. You'll also find mounting holes on either side that can be used with brackets to mount this up off the ground and out of the way. And there are 4 rubber feet on the bottom, again to protect the surface you'll set this down on. Now on the front of the module, starting on the left is a reset button. You can use a paper clip again and gently press that button to reset the module if needed. To the right of that is a power indicator. Again, if you connect this to a switch that's PoE capable, the power for the module is sent over that LAN connection. But if you're not using a PoE switch, you'll have to use the power supply and you'll plug it in the rear, and I'll show you that in a minute. But when you add power to the module, it starts that internal power on self-test. It'll illuminate that light over there once the module is ready to use. To the right of that is a status indicator. Now, when you first power up the module, that status indicator will blink until it identifies all the transmitters and receivers on the network, and then it'll stay on solid. And that indicates that it found everything that's on the network that it can control. On the rear of the module, starting on the left, is a power port. Again, you won't need to use that if you're using a PoE switch. To the right of that are 2 LAN ports, one for video, one for control. Now, you can connect this directly to the network where all the transmitters and receivers are connected, and it'll control all of those devices over that single network. But you can also isolate the control network if you want for very specific situations. To the right of that is a switch that you can decide if it's in normal mode or MCU mode. In normal mode, the RS-232 port can be used to control the product using control signals, and actually some programmatic things can happen through that connection. If you need to update the firmware, you can push this over to the MCU side. That allows you to update the firmware on the module if needed. To the right of that, again, is a grouping of RS-232 connections that you can use with a local computer to issue some basic commands to control the hub. To the right of that are a series of connections that will output voltage to relays and other things, and you can decide what that voltage level is by flipping the switch between 5 volts, which is standard for USB, or 12 volts. And then finally, to the right of that is another 3.5mm port labeled IR in. You can use an infrared blaster and plug it in right there to be able to control this through an infrared remote. The final component in the system is a switch, which is used to set up the network and establish the connections between the various modules used in the solution. Now, the recommendation is to use a switch that's PoE capable because that eliminates the need for a power supply at each of the modules and really simplifies your wiring. O-Ray offers 2 switches that are PoE capable and they're managed, a 24 port, which I have in front of me, and a larger 48 port, so you can choose the one that best suits the size of your network. Now on the 24 port switch on the right hand side, you'll find ventilation fans and holes on the other side, And when the switch is turned on, air is pulled through this cabinet and evacuates any heat that develops during operation. You'll also find mounting holes on both sides on the front that can be used with a bracketing kit to mount this switch into a media rack. On the front of the unit, starting on the left, are two indicators, power and sys. When you add power to this unit, it'll start an internal power on self-test where it checks the electronics, it checks for connections on the ports, and when it finishes that test, the power indicator will come on solid. Below that is a system indicator, and that will flash initially, and then when it's finished, it'll stay on solid, indicating it's connected to the network, it found components, and it's ready to use. Below that is a reset button. Again, you can use that to reset the module by using a paper clip and gently pushing that button. To the right of that are a series of indicators that let you know the link speed, the connection, and the status of these particular ports. So these are all explained in the manual. But again, if you're using regular components, you won't see the PoE light come on. But if you're using one of the components in the kit that uses the PoE functionality, you'll see the PoE light come on, indicating that port is sending not only data, but power to that particular product. And here are the 24 ports you can use for connection to the equipment. To the right of that are 4 more ports that are 10 gig fiber ports. These are all 1 gig ports, and these 4 are 4 10 gig fiber ports that can be used again for connecting components. And finally, to the right of that is another LAN port labeled console. You can connect this to a local computer using a cable to manage the switch, and all those management commands are explained in the manual as well. On the rear of the switch, you'll find a port for the AC cord. You'll plug it in there, plug it into the wall, and that's all the power you'll need to operate it. In the center is a fuse. If there's an issue with the switch, you may pop that fuse, so you can poke a paper clip under the end there and actually open that up and change that fuse. And finally, to the left of that is a switch you can use to turn this unit on and off. There's also a ground connection right there if you'd like to wire this to earth ground in case there's any static electricity. That's pretty much it for the 24-port switch.
The new TOVI system is compatible with most modern HDMI media devices, including satellite receivers, media players like Apple TV, digital signage, streaming devices, and digital projectors. The product's features include full support of 4K ultra-high definition media content. It provides dual channel I/O and dual relay ports. It is both HDMI 2.0b as well as HDCP 2.2 compliant. It offers 328 feet of unicast or multicast extension between the primary and secondary locations, and includes a host of advanced features like KVM, full eARC compliance, and PoE support. I hope you found this overview of the new O-Ray TOVI Professional AV over IP system helpful. This solution is incredibly flexible and expandable, and you can start off with the basic components I have in front of me, and you can add additional transmitters as needed or additional receivers as needed. If you have a PoE switch already, you can use that one. If not, O-Ray offers 2 PoE switches. I have the 24 port in front of me. There's a 48 port in addition to that, so if you have a really large network, you can go with the 48 port. But the nice thing about this system is that it's flexible enough where I can create relationships that would require a dedicated product normally. For example, I can create an HDMI extension relationship where media content from one location is sent to a second location. I can also create an HDMI splitter relationship. By adding additional receivers, I can send that same media content to multiple remote locations at the same time over the network. I can also create a multiplexer relationship where I can add additional transmitters with different media streams and decide which of those media streams is being sent to which of the receivers and have complete control over my network. And all of that is done through the control hub, which provides a very easy way through that graphical user interface to control the relationships between the transmitters and the receivers. And you can expand this exponentially. You can add a lot of transmitters to the system if you've got a lot of media streams. You can add additional receivers as you add new displays to your environment, and it dynamically expands as long as you have ports available on your PoE switch. And again, the best thing about the PoE switch is it eliminates the need for a power supply at each of these modules, and again, it greatly simplifies your wiring. So that's pretty much all I had for today. I hope you found this review helpful, and until next time, as always, thanks for watching.